Hello, ladies and gentlemen, MarauderEX here with my recap of Microsoft's E3 2018 conference. Normally I go into the Microsoft conference not really expecting much. The last couple of years haven't really been my cup of tea, not really my forte. So I never really been, Team Microsoft, but this was actually pretty good. I gotta say, I was really impressed. They came out swinging with a lot of games, a lot of premieres, and then a fair number of exclusive titles. And the thing that I'm wanting to see is how the exclusive plays out, because I know in E3's past they say that this is an exclusive, but it's exclusive to the Xbox or PC gaming, which doesn't really feel that exclusive for consoles. I mean, I like that approach, and I think they may be sticking with that approach, but it's one of those, the terminology always seemed a little disingenuous to me. It's like, it's exclusive to Xbox One if you don't count this console. That's what. So I made a list of all of the games as they happened, and I'm just going to run through a lot of these really quick. Some of these I'm going to have some thoughts on, others I'm not, because they're not really my shtick. But there was a little bit of something for everyone, and that's impressive, because normally Microsoft kind of gives off the impression that if it's not an FPS, if it's not brown or gray or gritty, it's not welcome on their console. This time around, they showed off a large variety of things. Not quite enough to make me want to get an Xbox, but if they continue in this direction, I could see wanting to pick up the console, because there's some decent stuff on here. So starting off, they came up with Halo. There's another Halo game. Again, FPS is not really my bag. They had a new Ori game. That looks good, because that's one of the few games that I was always really interested in. The Xbox, Ori and the Blind Forest. There's a sequel to this one. Looks even better. It looked gorgeous. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Weird samurai Bionic Commando looking mashup. That was kind of neat. Fallout 76 first look. Okay, I'm really hesitant about this, because I've heard a lot of things about Fallout that's like it's not going to be like Fallout 3 or 4 or New Vegas or anything like that. It's going to be different. And they showed off it takes place in West Virginia. I am a West Virginia native. I go up all the time to visit friends and family. I recognized so many of the places that they showed off there. In fact, one of them is right near where my grandmother lives. So I'm sitting here going, that hits me right in the feels. Right in the feels. So that was an awesome first look. Thank you, Microsoft, for that, because now I'm getting hyped over a game that I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be a game I'm going to like. And I'm not seeing any gameplay, I'm just seeing footage. We've got Captain Spirit, which is set in the Life is Strange universe. A series I've heard a lot of good things about, but I haven't had a chance to get into. Crackdown 3, starring Terry Crews. Anything involving Terry Crews is just going to be worth it. And the Crackdown games never take themselves too seriously. I'm expecting this to be like the Terry Crews Old Spice commercials, where things are just out there. So I'm excited about that. We had Nier Automata, automated, part of the Xbox Enhanced. Metro Exodus. We had a first look at Kingdom Hearts 3, which is the first time the series is going to be multi-platform. Typically, any game has only really been on one platform. Everything else, that platform changes over time, because you had like the PS2, you had the DS, you had the PSP, but this is the first time a game is coming out on multiple consoles. It'd be like if, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out on the PS2 and like the GameCube or the Wii or something. I don't know. The timing for that was all really weird. But first look at Kingdom Hearts 3, a lot of new stuff. They had Sea of Thieves, which also looks like an amazing game, but not one I've spent a lot of time involved with. So, yeah. Battlefield 5, they showed off some of that. That looks interesting. Does that look like the single player? They showed off Forza 4 with its transitions and seasons, which looks neat. Then they talked about some studio acquisitions. A lot of studio acquisitions. They showed off more of We Happy Few, which looks psychedelic. And, like, the more I see of this game, the more I'm like, this is going to be amazing and nightmare-inducing at the same time. PUBG, don't really care about, because everything is now Battle Royale, no matter how you want to scratch it. But hey, PUBG. Tales of Vesperia, the Enhanced Edition. I've got Tales of Vesperia on the 360. I still have yet to play it. I'm really excited to see this. I don't know if it is... I missed the part whether or not it's exclusive to the Xbox, because I know in North America, Vesperia was exclusive to the Xbox only. There is a PS3 version of it, but it never got localized. So I'm wondering if that's going to carry over, or if they've got a timed exclusivity with this, or if it's just going to be available multi-platform. I missed that part of it. I was kind of too busy just sitting there with my jaw hanging out, because, yeah. More on Tom Clancy's The Division. We've got more Division, more Tom Clancy, all of the Toms and the Clancys and the Divisions. Then they talked about the Xbox Game Pass for a while, how that system's going to work. Interesting. It did bore me a little bit because it was not presented in a way that seemed like this is a service that you want. This is just... It was presented as a service we're providing. And I think it has a lot of potential, but I think it was a bad... Not a bad time and not a bad presentation, because the timing and the presentation were both actually really good. I don't know. I don't think that point in E3, or at that point in the presentation, could have been the best point for it. But I don't know. I don't know how else that they would have done that to kind of showcase what I think it's going to be capable of, or what they are trying to say it's capable of. We saw some Tomb Raider stuff, because we're just continuing with Tomb Raider. Not that it looked bad, but I haven't been in the Tomb Raider series. I know now that it's taken over by Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics and all of that, or Eidos, Crystal Dynamics. I'm too many names floating around in my head right now. It has changed a fair bit. Into a more Uncharted style of gameplay. And that looks neat. It looks interesting. But it's one I haven't been following for a very long time. I don't think I've actually paid attention to Tomb Raider since Tomb Raider 2. So it's been a while for me. Then there was Session, which I don't entirely know what it was. It was a guy skateboarding. Looked nice, but I have no idea what it's about. Then there was Black Desert, which... MMO, I'm kind of past my MMO prime on that. There was Devil May Cry Johnny Youngbosch edition, because Johnny Youngbosch has to voice everything. I swear, he is just everywhere. I actually was, at that point, after seeing it, I'm like, is he voicing other characters in other games? I don't know. I have to now find out. But no, seems like it was just Devil May Cry. It didn't look like the Devil May Cry that I was expecting, but I know they've been trying to do a lot with Devil May Cry in recent years, getting away from the Dante era. So, then what do we have? We had some Cuphead, The Last Course. I don't know if that's DLC or like a standalone, another standalone game. It looks probably more like DLC, because it doesn't look to be a full game. I don't know. They didn't really show a lot of it. But anything Cuphead, I'm excited about, because it's difficult, but it looks amazing. What else we got? We've got Tunic, which is a Zelda Foxland. That's one that I'm actually really... That was one that kind of surprised me, because that was one that seemed very different for the Xbox audience. Or the perceived Xbox audience, I want to say. Because I don't want to perpetuate that bullshit of that the console fans are very stereotypical, because they're not. This is speaking of someone who has too many consoles. But it looked good. that was one of the games I'm like, okay, I kind of want to see more of this. To I was just really, really excited to see that one. And I've got a cat. He is just. There was Jump Force, which looks like Jump Ultimate Stars, J-Stars Victory, what have you. It looks like flagship Shonen Jump titles in the real world. It had Goku and Naruto, and at the tail end of it, they had the characters from Death Note. It looked interesting, but fighting in what looked like a real city, not cities that exist in those worlds. So, interesting. I'm going to wait and see how the gameplay actually looks for that. If it's going to be like the J-Stars Victory stuff. Because I enjoyed that. What else do we had? We had Dying Light 2, which looked dark. Really dark, and lots of excuse me, cat. A lot of decisions that kind of branch out. It looked like there's a lot of choices, a lot of changes, and a interesting way of showing a unique pathway that each playthrough can be really different. Waiting to see just how in-depth that's going to be, though. They showed a little bit of like a character web of, various decisions and how some of them can interact. But I want to see a little bit more on that. Battletoads, because as a gamer and as someone who has worked at GameStop, I can guarantee you this is just going to piss people off, because one thing people like to do is call GameStop and ask if they have Battletoads. I don't know why this is a thing. I really don't. I don't understand it, but I had coworkers call other stores. Like, I would be at work and people from another store in town would call me and ask me if I had Battletoads, because they like to do stupid things. So yay, now everyone can say they have Battletoads. I am excited about the 3-player couch co-op. That's something that I don't think gets thrown into games nearly enough these days. We had Just Cause 4, which I am looking forward to because I love the Just Cause series. I don't own any of the games, but I've played them simply for the physics simulation. I love just doing random things with the in-game physics because it's unique and fun and totally not realistic in any sense of the word. There was the Gears Pop game. I don't know why there's a Gears Pop game of two things that I don't understand why they are being meshed together. But I said the same thing about Mario and Rabbids for Kingdom Battle, and that turned out to be a really good XCOM-style strategy game. So who knows? Maybe this can be something really unique and really different and really fun. I don't know. They didn't really show any actual gameplay. They just showed the teaser. Then they did talk about Gears Tactics, which looks good. I love tactical games. I know, shocker, right? So I'm actually really excited to see more of that one. What they did show looked really interesting. I like the RTS element style of it. It looks like an interesting take on the Gears franchise. And then, of course, they talked about Gears 5, which looks like Gears. It's Gears of War. And while I've played Gears of War a lot, I mostly played online with coworkers at the time. I never really got into the story of Gears. It was mostly just the multiplayer. So I'm really excited to see that they are continuing with this. And it is still... They're not abandoning the story mode for Gears, and they are continuing to add story to it. And then the last thing that they showed off at the conference was Cyberpunk 2077 by CD Projekt Red. And, CD Projekt Red does good work. So this looks like it's going to be interesting. Like, I like the Cyberpunk universe styles. I loved Shadowrun, both the games and the tabletop game, the novels, and but it's not the first setting I tend to lean towards. So I'm cautiously optimistic about that, mostly because of the company behind it. CD Projekt Red does a lot of really good stuff, so I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this, even if it's not a genre that I tend to lean towards. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. So yeah, that was Microsoft's E3, and they came out swinging. I was really not expecting this. I knew they kind of needed to do something because whether or not people like to admit it, they don't have the, again, going with stereotypes that I hate perpetuating with console enthusiasts. People always tend to lean toward that they are losing the console war this generation, and they have been losing the console war for a while. I don't necessarily believe that that's true. I think they've had some ups and downs, and I think most recently there have been a lot of downs because, like I said, last couple of E3s, I've not really been all that enthusiastic about their conference. But this one really did surprise me. There was a lot more at this E3 that I felt that would resonate with me, rather than aiming for one or two very specific demographics. They threw out a bunch of stuff to try to appeal to a large audience. And that is something that I think that they haven't been doing in recent years. And I'm really surprised and really glad to see that that was the take this time. Again, I don't know how many of the games that I'm actually interested in are going to be exclusive to the Xbox platform, because I can see a lot of them being multi-platform. Like, I know Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be multi-platform, but, you know, Tunic seems like it's going to be exclusive, and that one was one I was interested in. Gears Tactics, obviously going to be exclusive, but I'm curious as to what else they've got, because they might actually be able to convince me to buy an Xbox. That's the only current gen console I don't have, and that could change. They came out swinging. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. So stick with me for the rest of the week, because we've got Sony, Square Enix, and Nintendo are the other ones that I'm aiming to cover. There's also the Bethesda event that I might do a short video on. Probably not, though, mostly because I'm just kind of curious to see what they're going to do with Fallout being set in my stomping grounds. So, yeah. Probably not going to fully cover that one, but I might tweet some thoughts about it as the event's happening. But I definitely want to cover Square Enix and Sony and Nintendo. Definitely going to cover the big three: Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. So if I don't get a chance to do Square Enix, I am definitely covering the big three. And then I will give a recap of E3 as a whole, how I felt about all of the presentations, all of the games released, what information we got, and what we can expect from gaming for the next year. So, yeah, stick with me. It's going to be a fun week. So, till then, later, everyone.